Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the cEDH cast. My name is Ian, and with me as always is my co-host Brayden.
Hello.
On this week's episode, we're trying something really cool and really exciting. We are doing an Ikoria re-review. So we are we are taking a look back at our set review of Ikoria, and we're actually going to talk about cards we mentioned that are seeing play, cards that we forgot to mention that ended up being actually important for the meta, things that we did mention and, saw more play than even we could have thought. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about, and it's all pretty exciting. But before we get into any of those details, we are going to do our patron shout out. Braden, take us away.
All right, so our patron shout out today for this week is Griffin. Thank you, Griffin. We really appreciate your patronage, and we appreciate the patronage of everyone who's a patron over at the cEDH cast.
Thank you so much to all of our patrons. You guys keep the lights on. We need the patron money we just actually last week upgraded our Google storage so that we can keep all of our videos for all the new stuff we're doing, where we can use that to share with guests. We, use that to store our audio on SoundCloud, stuff like that. So it's all super important to help keep the channel going and growing. So thank you very much.
Yeah. There's been a few services that we use right now. I'm not going to advertise them, but there's a few things like that we have that we pay monthly subscriptions for, and just having those paid for by Patreon is really helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, let's talk about Ikoria and C20, the re-review. So, first card on the docket is one that obviously I've spent a lot of time working on. If you've been listening to the podcast, that's Zirda the Dawnwaker. So Zirda has been, for me personally, absolutely amazing. I mean, it basically has been the one card that has given me my favorite deck of all time. So I've, as those who know, I've been playing Dawnwaker Thrasios now for probably, since Zirda was spoiled, I've put a ton of work into that archetype. Starting off with making it an evolution brew, and then kind of moving out of that very recently. I'm going to do a video soon about how that archetype has evolved, and it's actually went through a pretty major overhaul recently, and I'm really excited to talk about that. But Zirda's amazing. It's a great card advantage engine, and it's an amazing combo piece. So.
Yeah, even just the basic stats and abilities are just kind of busted. The synergies it has in cEDH are just absurd.
Yeah. It's literally banned in Legacy already because of the Monolith combo, so it's that should probably tell you something.
Yeah, it's actually a great point. When you reviewed the card, it wasn't yet banned. So that's pretty excellent. All right.
Sweet. Next one.
Up. Fiend Artisan.
Yeah.
So this is actually a card I've seen played a little bit. I was watching Team Turn 3 last night, and Sick was playing a Blood Pod deck, but it wasn't really Blood Pod, I don't think, but it was similar to it.
Yeah.
And it was using this to get Snoop.
Yeah, I was going to say Snoop Pod seems to be a thing sort of evolving lately since the printing of Conspicuous Snoop. So I think Fiend Artisans, I've seen a lot in that specific version of Blood Pod.
Yeah, I think that this card's especially powerful there since it's a one-card creature combo.
Right.
So, being able to just, go get that card while also being, a beater with Tymna is pretty important.
Yeah. It's also nice that, you can do, weird shenanigans where you can have it untapped. You can, at end step, go grab. Or is it limited? No, it's not limited to sorceries, is it?
It is, yeah.
Oh, so okay, sorcery. So, you can still, on your turn, go grab the recruiter, and then, if some stuff's happening...
it's literally just play Tymna. You play Tymna, right? So, you can literally just go get recruiter, stack your deck, put Snoop on top, go to combat with your, and then, tokens, draw a card, then...
that's pretty good.
So,
yeah,
so
exactly.
That's, not unreasonable at all. It's 5 mana, 6 mana. So it is somewhat of a cost, but it's pretty compact.
And as we kind of mentioned in the we mentioned in the original review that's kind of the place for it and not much else, but it does work in the one archetype it's in, right? So and sometimes that's just what cards do.
Yeah. All right. Next one's up. Song of Creation. This is a card I was testing with at the time. We got a quote from me saying that I said it was the most powerful card in the set or something like that. Yeah, I still stand by that. I think this card is like probably the most abusable and most powerful card in the set.
Yeah.
It's just not. It has not found a home, in my opinion. Cobblepot has worked on a list. I was playing Paco, I think, when the set review came out. The number of people I've had to convince not to play this card in Paco in the time since is just never ending. Anytime someone hops into the Discord, this is the card they're trying to break, and Paco just isn't the deck. I mean, you can build it that way, but in my opinion, that's just not the right way to go. So
there is a brew I have been. I'm as anyone who listens to the show know, I'm working on brews all the time. There is a brew I have sort of in the back pocket with this and another card we're going to talk about later, Whirlwind of Thought, and like having those two together. But right now we haven't really found the right shell for it. But it's only been a couple months, and I think this is one of those cards that when someone breaks it, it will be broken wide open. Yeah.
All right, next one's up.
Yeah.
Riel the Everwise.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say on this one, Ian?
Oh, Granny Wizard? Yeah, I see her so often on the Nexus. That's the main place I play now, due to the LGS being shut down. Riel they're a good amount. I mean, so there's definitely been, the initial excitement about the card. I have to say this and Kinnan were like the two Ikoria cards that I was seeing like a ridiculous amount of as just helming the deck when the set first came out. Riel is very spicy, it's very strong, it has a lot of play to it. Sometimes you can just end step refresh your hand with like a Tolarian Winds, which is like so good. The brews I've seen that have worked really well with it have been playing a lot of Pyroclasm effects. So, like, at end step, you can, like, wipe all your opponent's dorks with, like, a Volcanic Fallout and then, like, swing in with Riel, who's, like, a 20/20 at the time or something ridiculous like that. The biggest issue I see with this deck, and I think it's real. I think it is a good deck, and I think it can play at the table. Like, I will never be embarrassed to, like, sit down at the table with a Riel deck. But the biggest issue I've seen is that the main win conditions of the deck are like fair Riel beating down, which it does not have any evasion, doesn't have trample, which is a problem, and Underworld Breach combos, right? That is like the main way I've seen Riel go off. And because you're an Izzet, it's really, really hard, apart from Time Twister, to recur Underworld Breach when it hits the graveyard. So I've seen people try to play it early and they don't have enough protection and it's too early, and then they lose Underworld Breach, and then they have opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to try and win, but they just can't get their breach back and the deck fizzles. So I've noticed that's sort of the biggest flaw with the deck, and I think when someone figures out ways to mitigate that part, then the deck might have a little better chance going into the late game.
Yeah, I've only played against this deck like maybe twice, based on my memory. It's interesting to hear you have to say. Like, I'm not very impressed by this card at this point, just because I haven't seen very much of it. And since Ikoria came out, like, Farm has really like gone from being like an archetype to like the archetype in my mind. Like, any deck I build, I have to be like, is this like doing farm things? If it's not doing farm things, why am I not doing farm things? That's just like, I mean, that's really how it is. Like, medium green obviously isn't going to be doing farm stuff, but like I have to worry about it in my deck building. And Riel just doesn't do any of that like cute Culling Week stuff because you just don't have access to it. Like,
right.
So that's like a concern I have, and I think a lot of decks are like Notion Thief and stuff. So
yeah, that definitely is a problem for the deck.
That card I don't know how Riel plays against an opponent with 4 mana up. Like, I don't know what they do. So that's like my feedback on the card. I mean, if people are killing it with the deck, like it's hard to really argue against that. But
yeah,
it's just my experience. All right, next one's up. Wardrakus. This is like a really cute card. If people don't remember, it goes infinite with a bounce spell and Dockside Extortionist. And notably with Winds of Rebuke, you basically get to make infinite mana and then tutor back any instant or sorcery in your deck, which is probably enough for you to win the game.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like stuff with Vadrock in this. There's like, and like that octopus. There's like some cute things going on here, but all in all, like, I think it's just been like the first card people cut when new dockside enablers get played. Like with Emil, like this card's just completely outclassed.
Yeah, that's literally exactly what happened. I was testing out Laura Dracus in Bruce Thrasios, and what happened was it often was like really good. Like the amount of times I was able to do crazy stuff like regrowth my Finale of Devastation with Laura Dracus to like grab my dockside and then combo off because I already had a bounce spell in my hand. You know what I mean? Stuff like that was like really cool and it had a lot of play to it. But the problem especially being that like the combos with it can get real expensive if you're not playing Snap. Stuff like that is really tough. The fact that you do need a third card and sometimes it is just a dead card in your hand. Like obviously a regrowth effect is powerful, but anyone who's played regrowth effects knows the downside of playing them, which is sometimes it's too early in the game and you have a Lord Dracus in your hand and you just can't do anything with it, or you don't want to spend 2 mana to mutate onto a creature, and sometimes they can bounce the creature in response. There's a lot of stuff that can be problematic given that light. So it's important to know.
Yeah. I will say, like, the fact that it's not like an activated ability is pretty cute, so you can play this in your Curse Totem decks.
Definitely. You can get around Curse Totem effects, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, you could definitely see, like, maybe, like, in the future, there could be, like, maybe a Team or Food Chain deck that also is doing, like, dockside stuff.
Yeah,
It might be like, not even then, like, I don't know, it's really awkward, right? Like, all the good broken mana generation outlets are usually creatures. The key thing with Lord Dracus is that you could, like, bounce the commander back to your hand or something, but...
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like, this combo obviously is, like, kind of interesting, but I think Vadrock is probably just the best place for it now that I'm, like, thinking about it.
I do like it. So the problem is, right, I think I like it in a place where you would see the normal turbo Adnaz stuff, like, you know what I mean, like if you're playing Snap and all these bounce effects and you're playing Phantasmal Image, but then if you're playing that combo, then you don't have an infinite mana outlet, right? Because if you're in those colors, you're playing like Sans Green, so you don't have Thrasios and access to that. So that's one of the biggest problems I found with it, is that it just has a little bit of awkwardness in that in between space.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's go to the next one. Oh my gosh. Okay.
This card is dumb. And we said it then, we'll say it now.
Yeah, this card is silly. I mean, obviously, it's like one of the greatest cards I've ever neoformed into. There are tables where this just shuts people down. I mean, Paco is just like, can you please never play this against me? Like, can we house rule this card to be banned so my Paco deck can be good?
I think,
obviously,
I genuinely think, like, next to Thassa's Oracle, this is probably one of the most impactful cards printed since I've been playing this format. Like it's just insane.
I think that's interesting. Like, I don't know if it really is that impactful, right? Like, are people?
I just know so many decks that are like this card symbolizes partner decks were already like very strong and oppressive, and they had a lot of engines outside of their commander. But now you are even more incentivized to not be playing those 5 mana commanders that like your deck is built around. Like those decks are just like, they were already falling behind to the partner decks that didn't need their commanders, and they were already falling behind to consult effects. But now they just are falling behind even more because Drannith Magistrate exists. Like that, the one creature that you can play on turn 1 can shut down your entire strategy.
Yeah. I mean, that's like why Paco, like, people will try to build Paco as like a grindy control deck, and it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you have to get a 5 mana commander under a Drannith Magistrate.
Yeah.
Which is like absurd. Yeah. That's like, I mean, that should not be allowed, and we're able to do it sometimes, like a large amount of the time we can. So it's
like,
fine.
It's also crazy, like the change from 2 mana board wipes being the de facto position to now everyone's like, you need to run 3 damage board wipes to deal with this and with Thrasios, and
I don't see that happening. Like, at least I think the Drannith Magistrate like has some interesting things going on, but like, I don't see like a lot of the changes in the format being caused by it as much as like it's just the format moving further in a direction, right? Like,
I don't know if I agree with that. I literally have had conversations with like, and not in the just one server, but like in multiple deck building servers where, everyone's like, oh, now because of Magistrate, we have to run things differently. Like we have to play more spot removal. We have to play 3 damage board wipes. Like these are things that have to be done because this card exists.
Sure, I just don't see the like. I don't see those things. Like I think like a Braid probably went up quite a few points. I think like I don't think I've seen a 3-mana damage Wrath played in 2 months maybe. Yeah.
I have the exact opposite thing. I'm seeing a ton of it.
Yeah.
So
I'm not seeing anything like that. So like to me it's like, oh well, like I see a Braid a lot. Like I see people play a Braiding. Like I've seen Drance Magistrate braided like many times, but I don't consider like, oh well, in response to Drance
also
Magistrate.
The resurgence of swords. Like I don't think people were playing Swords to Plowshares in their deck a lot before Draenith came out. Like
yeah,
I think I've seen a ton of that card too.
I haven't seen a lot of swords either. Yeah, like I'm playing in the farm meta. Like
yeah,
like that's my life right now. Is it's just farm decks for days.
Yeah,
like,
we're playing in a very different meta. So
so like sure, like people drop Draenith Magistrate, but like what that does is like, so like I play Eureka farm a lot. I play medium green a lot, and so it's like usually like medium green got under it or medium green put it in play, and then Eureka doesn't care about it.
Right.
So like because Eureka just ninjutsus. So like in my experience, like Draenith Magistrate is just like it's either a card I'm playing and it kills some people, but like that's their, or they like the thing with farm decks is they either don't care about it or it kills them, and you really you don't know that until they've already like you've finished mulliganing, you've kept like a 7 or a 6, right, and they're going down to like 5, and their 5 could be like a turn 2 ad nauseum or a turn 1 Crom or turn 2 Crom. And if they go to 4, then it's probably like a turn 2 Crom is what they're keeping. But like you've already kept your 6, right? By the time that they like, or your 7, by the time they've like made. By the time
they display what their game plan is.
Sure. Yeah, right. So like, I don't see like, so Draenith Magistrate has some very odd. It's very swingy and I play decks that aren't affected by it, but I think that's just like a coincidence. I don't think that's like an actual decision I'm making. So it's it's like an odd card, and like no one's like, if you're in farm meta, like no one's playing 3-mana Wraths. Like
That's
what? I even Deluge. I'm like, why would you play Deluge? You know.
Oh wow. See, you're playing in such a different meta than I am, so I guess.
Yeah, like So yeah, I don't know, because like you can win on turn 2, so I'll just win on turn 2. It's like fine. So that's like what I've been experiencing.
That's just not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing there's a lot of mid-range decks with mana up and actually having interaction on the early turns. It's very different from the farm meta.
I guess. Yeah, I would play farm against those people. That sounds like fun. Yeah, that's the thing, right?
Sure.
Although I should probably build blue farm eventually. I have Eureka farm at this
probably
point, so it's just like it's not even that far off.
Yeah.
All right. Final comments on Draenith Magistrate. Cards busted.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Keenan. This is a card I know you're going to have different experience with because I've played against it. I've never lost this deck, and I've never.
Oh, that's fair.
I've never. I've never been impressed by it, but I know Scotty loves it. And I assume you play with Scotty, so I imagine we have different opinions on this card, right? Like, also,
so
you play it as a combo piece, like very different experiences.
So I love Kinnan in the 99. I'm playing obviously a ton of Dawnmaker Thrasios. So in the 99, that card's insane in my deck. I've literally kept no landers with a Chrome Mox and a Mox Diamond because I had a Kinnan in my hand to turn 1 it. Yeah, that was a wild game. It's a long story. But
right. Maybe a Keenan and a Lotus Petal.
It was...
but a Mox Diamond with no lands?
No. I had that was my 1 land, was for the Mox Diamond.
Okay. Well, that's reasonable then. That's fair.
Yeah.
I thought you kept a Mox Diamond in hand with no lands. I was like, what?
Oh, no. No, I'm saying no additional lands past the Mox Diamond land. Sorry, I should clarify that.
That seems super fair. Yeah, I like that. I mean, not fair, but strong.
Yeah. But like it does dumb things with Smothering Tithe, with Dockside, and if you've noticed the two cards I just mentioned, they're not in Simic. So that's why I think Kinnon's an amazing card in the 99 if you're already playing like a great mid-range grindy value engine. Like I put Green Sun Zenith in deck to just fetch Kinnon sometimes. It's a way to win if you don't have Thrasios because you can just put all your creatures into play, including Emil and Dockside, make infinite mana that way. There's a ton of stuff you can do. So it's a really, really powerful effect. I have seen it at the head of a deck. One problem I have noticed with the deck is that it is scarier than it is.
Yeah.
Meaning that basically you see the deck make like 12 mana on turn 3, and you're like, oh my god, this is horribly oppressive. Like, how do we even get past this? But it just, like Riel, it has trouble closing the game, right? Like, when you see Riel draw 14 cards, or you see Kinnan make 12 mana, you're like, oh my god, we have to stop them. They get shut down, and then someone sneaks a win out from underneath them. And I see it all the time. Now, there are really good Kinnan pilots I have seen that have managed to play an in-between game where they're not going so hard into the mana acceleration that they are giving up on, like, the values of a cEDH deck where you want to interact with the table, and they treat it more like a mid-range deck. And in that sense, it's actually pretty interesting because sometimes, you know, you'll be playing, they'll put a couple mana dorks in the field, they'll have a grip full of interaction, and then sometimes they'll be like, all right, and now I play Consecrated Sphinx. But they're not just like Consecrated Sphinx, blah 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 blah. They're like, they play a Consecrated Sphinx with like 3 pieces of interaction up, and then they win the game from there, right? And that's the best way I've seen the deck be played. Using very powerful, expensive engines, but that can be easily played because you have Kinnan in the command zone. There's cute stuff you can do with it, but it is a very hard deck to balance because if it goes too into the side of like just dropping fat creatures, then it sort of becomes just like, it just does that so much that it doesn't interact with the table. And if it goes too much the other way, then it's just a bad Thrasios deck. So you really have to like find that balance in the middle. And there's people who put a lot of work into it, and I think the right balance is getting closer and closer to being found with the deck. But do I ever think it's going to be like tier 1? Probably not. But like, I think it will always be on the fringes of the format as just a powerful thing you can be doing.
Yeah, I don't know if it was I built that Kraken deck, and it was in the Kraken deck, and it was insane there. That blue, green.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's actually really good in the 99. Like, just incidentally. Like I'm already playing a ton of dorks in my Bruce Thrasios deck, and like, sometimes your Bloom Tender is tapping for another mana, and it's also like the color pip you want. You know what I mean? You can do crazy stuff. Like the Dockside combos with this are insane. The other day I was telling Braden I was able to combo off with Emil, Dockside, and Kinnan, and my opponents only had 2 treasures in the whole table because Kinnan allowed the Dockside to double its mana, and I was netting a mana every single time, and that was like super powerful. So if you're doing stuff with that, I think it's really good in the 99.
Yeah, I will say that, like, I think there are decks where it's like very good. I think those are probably red decks because of Dockside being like so busted and game warping. And outside of that, I'm not really sure if it fits. But yeah, I don't see the card as like format defining. It's like it's just another card that like it's like there's a lot of cards that can fill like slots 90 through 110, and so like you always just cut off the top, like the 100 through 110 get cut off the top usually in deck building, and so like I think Keenan is in that set of like 10 cards that just like aren't quite there a lot of the time, but like he's always going to be hovering there, you know? Like there's going to be decks where he fits in, there's going to be decks where he doesn't fit in. So also, I forgot to mention the fact that it does combo with Basalt Monolith is important. So, like, for me, that's just an added combo in that deck. That's something to note. All right, Whirlwind of Thought. This is a blue farm card. Obviously, if you're casting a lot of spells, this card's really good. I don't think I've ever played against this card.
I have not either, no.
But I know that it's like a card that is talked about, so we brought it up.
Yeah.
Ukima. I mean, this card's like gas, right? Like it lets you It's
Yeah.
it's obviously the helm of a lot of food chain decks. Ian has an excellent Hermit Druid deck that we showed off a bit, and we've talked about it quite a few
Yep.
times.
It should hopefully be on the DDB soon. Keep my fingers crossed.
I think that it's very interesting that this card allows you to play less food chain cards in your food chain decks.
Yeah.
And that means that you get to play other combos, like you're already on console, but like Hermit Druid. Besides that, it's a dog.
I've won so many
That's a
times
wolf
with that deck
and a
with 3 cards in my library or something ridiculous like that, and I'm just like, went
Yeah.
for the greed, got paid off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that happened to me in Food Chain Sliver all the time, where I'd get there, but I'd have 6 cards left in the library, and I'm like, how do I piece this together?
Yeah.
All right, next one. Oh, Brawlin and Shabraz. Or Shabra, however you say it. I think there's a few people working on lists with these guys.
Yeah.
It's just kind of Mizzet.
Yeah,
Get
so
robbed.
it's definitely interesting. It's a really good, if you're already playing around with Breach synergies, I like the deck. It has some unique stuff that Riel can't do. I really like the curiosity aspect of it. A card that made me more interested in it was Pilferer. I think Pilferer is really strong in this deck as a discard engine and as a card draw engine. I think Pilferer actually was one of the first things that made me interested in actually playing this deck. It's definitely got its flaws. The commanders are clunky, they're fat and clunky, and that's something to
4
note
mana
when
is
you're
so
playing it.
awkward.
It is. It's a very awkward
so
place in the curve.
Weird.
Yeah.
5 is easier than 4 a lot of the time, and even then,
Yeah.
your mana vault hands, you're like, I have this mana left over.
Yeah. Curiosity. There you go.
I've done that and I haven't won because I don't have a
Oof.
discard outlet. So,
Yeah. I know. Shout out to Play to Win. Dylan's been working on this deck a lot. So if you're interested in seeing that deck in play, they have been featuring it a really healthy amount. So
yeah, sure. All right, next one up. Paco. Okay, come on. We've talked about this enough, right?
so I know we've talked about the card. It's probably not going to see a lot of play. No, I'm kidding. Paco's great.
Yeah. If you're on Team Paco, you're great. Yeah, I'll say I haven't been playing the deck lately. Been busy with farm things. Yeah, I think this deck's just solid. I think it's just gonna be. I think it really depends on if how good Ghost of Pilfer is, how good if there might be metas where Drannith Magistrate isn't as good, but I feel like those metas are probably also metas where Paco isn't as good, so it's hard to even say. The deck obviously has big weaknesses, but I think it's been tuned to this point where there's obvious slots that are meant to improve on those weaknesses and make the deck capable of being played. In the Playing with Power League right now, Riker is some ridiculous win rate. He's in second place playing Paco, just exclusively Paco.
Nice.
There's a lot of stacks and a lot of mid range in that meta. So if you're someone who has a meta like that, Paco's
Paco's great in that meta.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where someone plays a stacks piece that makes you sad, and you just hit them until they die.
Yeah. I really, I've been in a lot of places where people really underestimate Paco, and I think it's a mistake. I think it's just a solid deck.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely a cEDH deck, which is not as controversial as it used to be. There's still some people who like to shitpost about how bad it is, but
yeah,
what are you gonna do? All right. Oh, so this Fierce Guardianship is supposed to represent the entire cycle. So there's Fierce Guardianship, Deflecting Swat, Deadly Rollick, and the other two.
I wanted to mention that I think the printing of Fierce Guardianship and Deflecting Swat has really changed the way that we play this format a little bit because of the fact that there are just now 2 more free counter spells. The amount of times people say I'm tapped out and you're like, oh, what are the odds they have Force of Will or Path Negation it's so much more now. It's so much more now. Creature win cons are becoming a lot better in that light because Forcible and Pact hit it, and a lot of the time you're at the point where if you're going for a creature win early, like Pact won't even save them because then it's just a Spite Pact. So that's one thing to know about the printing of these cards. But I have literally been playing. I've been playing blue-red Thrasios decks and working in that archetype specifically for the fact that I can get the turn 1 Fierce Guardianship Deflecting SWAT as backup. I've been playing that in Mox Amber because I think like that Thrasios package is just insanely powerful. Like the fact that you can jam that out so early is like crazy to me.
Yeah, if you want to talk about influential and like game warping, these cards are. I mean, no offense, but I think these are way more impactful than Traneth Magistrate. Like,
I definitely agree. Yeah. No, I completely agree.
These are like, I mean, like the way people play their decks have changed, right? Where they're like, oh, I guess I'm just supposed to play my Tymna here so I can hold this Fierce Guardianship so I don't die.
Or like even small enough as like everyone used to play Pyroblast because it counted as a storm thing, but now we play Red Elemental Blast because it can't be swatted. You know what I mean? That's just a big difference.
I mean, it also has affected like turns decks where like, how you sequence your turns is important because like if you get redirected, you're like, oh shit. I mean, there's like Peer into the Abyss, like that card's a redirect. Is redirectable too. Which is a great way of them for balancing the card when you think about it, right? Like, a lot of these like new cards are misdirectable, and that makes them like weaker. And I think that's really interesting.
I agree.
I mean, if you misdirect a Peer into the Abyss, so
you're in a pretty good spot. Yeah.
Try to lose. As someone who's resolved that spell many times at this point, oh my god, it's so fun. So. It's these cards are broken. What else is there to say?
Moving on.
Zexara. I've played against this once. I beat it. It was not that hard.
Yeah.
It's definitely nice, but
it has a slot on the DDB right now. The deck's fine. I think it's more cute than I think it is good. I've played against it once or twice, and it's just, I don't know, it's just underwhelming when we play it.
I'm kind of shocked it's on the DDB. No offense to whoever made that deck, but I'm just kind of shocked it doesn't seem like the type of commander that usually be there, right?
It's like, I guess it's hard to have, like, you have infinite mana outlets and you have consult, so it's like, how
I guess if you're in Sultai,
really be?
Yeah, I guess that's true. All right. So now we're hitting cards that we didn't talk about. So the first one is Monota, which is Ian's, baby. So I've been working on this deck a lot. This may still surprise some people to see this on a re-review, but I genuinely think this is a very playable card. I've been spending literal weeks working on the math of balancing, how many humans versus non-humans you have in your deck, how many non-land permanents you can have. Like, there's been a lot of finagling that I put into this deck, and the payoff may not even be there, but there's some crazy stuff you can do. I was talking to Braden before the show. You can do things like hit Recruiter of the Guard and Imperial Recruiter off there. The conspicuous Snoop combos are now really good in this deck because you can, hit them off of a Recruiter. You can put them, then you can put the Goblin Recruiter into play. You can do some pretty crazy stuff with Kiki Jiki because both Zealous Conscripts and Village Bellringer are payoffs for their human payoffs, and you just need one more card to combo off of them, like Splinter Twin or Kiki Jiki. So there's a lot of play to the card for a Boros deck. I'm gonna release a full deck tech on it pretty soon. I think it actually is playable, and I think it's a nice addition. It's not gonna be tier 1. Obviously, it's a Boros deck, right? But if you want to sit down at a table with a Boros deck, I think this is actually one that can do it. So that's my hot take right there. I'm traumatized by playing Boros, so I cannot play on any of this. People don't know I was the feather guy at one point.
Yeah,
in a different life, I was.
In a different life, Braden was the feather guy.
Here's Luris. I've played against a lot of Luris actually, and apparently there's a Luris farm deck going around, which is kind of interesting. Now that there's Peer to the Abyss, actually the deck probably gets significantly better.
It is.
Have you played against it? The updated version?
I built it. Yeah.
Oh, is it fun?
It's very fun. So I think it still needs to be tweaked a little bit because the interaction is lower. I know you were playing against the KCI build that Dry Island Go was playing for a really long time. I've been working more on the farm variant of the deck. You have a lot of tutors, you have a lot of consistency. The balancing of not having blue is a little tough at times, but Lurrus gains you a ton of life. The fact that you're already playing a lot of zero drop things like baubles and stuff like that means that, one, you can play the Aureox Salvagers combo with like almost no downside, and two, it means that you can rip like 40 cards off an ad nauseum, because like sometimes you're like land, bauble, 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 land, you know what I mean, and you're just like you're going to your stuff, and it like digs you really efficiently to your combos. So
I do really like that you can like grasp an Underworld Breach and like actually combo off with Breach in this deck, like for real. Like this is like,
yeah, that's like a pretty easy, yeah.
like I could really see that. I think the fact you have access to Silence and Orange Chant and the
Abeyance,
Gyreper, what, the 1-mana 1/1 with flying when it deals con damage to
Hope of Gyreper.
Yeah, Hope of Gyreper.
And Grand Abolisher. Yep.
And Grand Abolisher. Like, there actually is a suite of protection. There's also Defense Grid, but Defense Grid is really scary. But
it also allows you to play like a pretty easy one-sided Chains of Mephistopheles, which is pretty insane. That like, because all of your draw engines are Necropotence, Adnaz, and unfortunately Pier gets there. But like with Lurrus in the command zone, you can just, I don't know, you can dig till you hit a Yawgmoth's Will and you're pretty fine.
Yeah, exactly. Or even just like a Praetor's Grasp the Breach, go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, like, I think that sounds excellent to me. So that sounds better.
It's really fun. It plays the farm game really well. It reminds me a lot of the Abzan farm deck a little bit, but it definitely has its own. Instead of the green, you're leaning a lot more into the artifact side, which definitely makes you weaker to Remora. So that's definitely something to note.
Yeah, and you use that on Veil, which is like
yes,
huge.
It's a very good card. Yeah.
Both Veils. Do you play the Thought Seizes?
Yes, I need to add a couple more in. I've realized that it's just better. I also need to. I was looking at whatever the Cabal Therapy on a stick is.
Ooh.
Can't remember the name.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Like, Cabal Therapist?
Cabal Therapist. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
All right.
Sweet.
Let's go to the next one. Tayam.
Tayam.
I played a bit of this in Conquest, and then I tried it out in cEDH for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's so awkward, dude. Like,
I'm not a big fan of it, but I know it also has a DB entry, so like I feel like we definitely needed to at least talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's definitely like a deck that if you sat down and played with me, I'd eventually have to be afraid of you. Like, you know, like Kyle says something like, if a cEDH deck is left alone long enough, it will win the game.
Right.
I forget what turn it was, but this deck can do that. It's so awkward. Like, the setup is just so specific, and the card quality is kind of questionable. There are some very interesting things you can do with it, like Shieldmate, I think is the name of the card, where you like give your Druid a +0/+4, so that you can put like, tons of -1/-1 counters on them, take them off, put them back on, make infinite mana, and yourself out. So there's a lot of cute stuff going on in this deck. I don't know if that's what the DDB uses, but that's what I was using.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like cute. Abzan's in a tough spot.
Yeah, I just like it. I know people have had counter arguments for this before, but I'm still sticking with the like. It just feels like a worse Carador, and I haven't seen Carador in a real long time.
I think it's definitely better than Carador. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, I think for sure. I don't think Carador is that good. I don't know if it's better than Timna Sidar though. Like that's the thing. Like that's the real thing.
Yeah.
Right? If it's better than that, probably not.
Or Timna Ikra, which is just bad for him.
Yeah. So, all right, next one. Giganta the Wellspring. I mean, for quite a while, this was like actually a deck. Rebel was playing it to success. The companion nerf, which makes it so that you can't cast it, you have to put it in your hand by paying 3 mana at any time. Well, actually, it has to be a main phase, but anytime during one of your main phases is rough. I
actually lost to the new version of this deck during the last tournament, because what they do is because they put it in their hand, they abuse that fact, and then they'll like reanimate it with something like a Shallow Grave, which is like...
so I've had that happen as well. I'm not
I'm not convinced on it. I'm not sold on it, to be honest, but it's something to do. Yeah.
It's an interesting card in 5 color decks too. Like
Yeah.
a 5-mana 5/5 that taps for 5 mana is like appealing. There's
Yes.
appeal. All right.
Yeah.
So there's Vadrock, Apex of Thunder. We did a deck tech on this, which I might be link in the description if I remember. We played it a bit.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this deck's like way better now than when we last played it.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of interesting mutate cards. The ability to cast any non-creature card is insane.
I mean, I feel like Pilfer was another huge boon for this deck too, right? Like,
for sure. Oh my god, yeah. Like,
yeah.
Ghostly Pilfer not being a human is like a huge deal.
Right.
Like the deck needed 2-mana like creatures,
non-human creatures that are
did
very
something.
impactful. Yeah,
That just did anything, and like being a discard outlet's huge, right? Like,
yeah.
you can cast it and then like discard a card in response to the cast, and then like, it's actually sick. I don't know if it's like ever gonna be like the deck. I mean, to be honest though, if they keep printing cards like Sabine's Reclamation and Underworld Breach, I mean, it could just be nuts. Because at the end of the day, like casting it's so wide open. Like 3 CMC or less non-creature card is like wide open. I mean, if they print like a white Animate Dead for some reason, can you imagine that? Like a Necromancy effect or something.
That'd be crazy.
There's already like an Angelic Renewal, which is like pretty close to that. So like,
I love that.
I'm just saying, we have all the time in the world for WotC to print broken white cards. So now
this deck is interesting, right? Like it when I first, when we first like were introduced to it, I was like, oh, it just seems like a bad Lord Drakus, and then like the more we talked about it, I was like, oh, you can do stuff with this, like the fact that Into the Royal and Blink of an Eye are like win cons in the deck.
The fact that if you cast Sabine's Reclamation, you get the trigger, like the copy, is insane. Like what? Yeah, it seems pretty good. All right.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff.
And that's the end. We have a few more cards which we were going to bring up.
Yes, so here, let me list them off real quick. So these were cards that we mentioned during the set review that ended up not being exciting or just not seeing play at all. The first one was Ethereal Forager. That was the whale that when it attacks, casts instant and sorcerers out of the graveyard. I still haven't seen it. I think I'm still sticking by. I think if there is a deck for it, it is playable. I just don't think there's a deck for it right now, or probably will be for some time. Tidal Barracuda, that's the Barracuda that gives every card flash, but is a Grand Abolisher during your turn. Brayden, I know you were excited about that card. Did you ever end up testing it?
No, because I just there's so many good cards. Like,
yeah.
Like,
yeah. I was pretty underwhelmed by that card. The 4 mana was rough. It was rough.
There's just so many good cards.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say.
Netherborn Altar, we talked about testing it in, in specifically like Mono Black CDC, but I don't know anyone who's actually played that deck in a really long time, so just never have seen it. Surly Badgersaur, that we originally talked about that in the shell of Brawl and Ishbra, but I know I haven't seen that in the actual shells in some time, and I've played against the deck a couple times. Gavi, as we mentioned during the set review, we said that we would need better cycling cards for this to really be viable, and that's still the case. Death's Oasis, which is a card I mentioned that's basically... It basically acts as an enabler for KCI combos. As I said also during the set review, we just don't have enough of a payoff where that's really worth it. Heartless Act, the Doomblade, but for non-countered creatures. I haven't seen
that. I have seen
You
that.
have? Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that once. I'm not sure where I did, though. I've seen that spell cast, I swear.
Yeah.
It's not bad. I will say the fact that it doesn't work with neoformed creatures is like actually a problem.
Yeah. It's also rough that it came out at the literal exact same time as Deadly Rollick, which it's just like better in most ways, and I've seen a lot of people playing Snuff Out and stuff like that, and like if you can play a free removal spell, why pay 2 mana for one?
Yeah. I agree.
Ominous Seas, which we talked about being more of a casual combo, and that's where it's been. And Of One Mind, which is so sad because we were both very hyped about this card.
it's just not flashy enough. I think like when people are
Yeah.
looking for cards out of their deck, they're looking for like swingy cards, and one
Yeah.
mana draw two is like pretty swingy. I mean that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it would have to be ancestral.
Sure.
I think it'd have to be like literally ancestral recall, which is
Yeah.
sad. But
And I don't play Timnathras at the moment, but like I still don't think that that's a bad shell for it. I think if you are playing a Timnathrasios deck, like I would not fault anyone for playing of One Mind.
I wouldn't judge anyone. I'd just be like, "How's it working?" And they'd be like, "Good." And I'd be like, "All right."
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
all right.
So, everybody, thank you for joining us for our re-review. If you guys like this, please comment down below, because I always think it's very interesting going from the time between a set review and now, where we've had enough time to like play and see these cards. If you guys like these, we will happily do them in the future, because we talk so much about these cards, and it's really exciting to be able to go back and be like, okay, this is real, this isn't, this is now defining our format. These were just a flash in the pan. I really enjoy having these conversations, and I think it can allow for people to really be able to kind of understand the analysis of what goes into these cards, and even seeing the flaws in our own analysis, you know what I mean? So I'm really excited about having done this. If you guys want to have discussions about these cards, if you want to have discussions about episodes like this in the future, please jump into our Discord. We are talking to people every single day. Braden and I are pretty good about responding. If one of us is away that day, the other one usually takes over. We have a really great community forming. We have the Bling channel. We have a lot of great stuff going on. We have people who are there all the time, and we love our community. So thank you so much for being supporting. We will leave the description for the Discord down in the link below, and please jump in. We love talking to people.
Yeah, it's like it's a blast. Like it's really cool feeling like we have people who are like hanging out in the Discord, being positive, giving people feedback on their deck lists,
Yeah.
or even just being like, "Hey, that's a really pretty card you got there. How did you get that?"
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. What an honest fun.
Sweet. And, we can be found on a ton of different places. We are on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, any of these places that you can find your normal podcast stuff. We are on YouTube all the time. We have YouTube exclusive content, and this is definitely one of those episodes that you might want to jump over to YouTube to be able to see the cards on the screen. Braden's doing a lot of hard work in getting that as a feature of our show. And also, if you guys are buying any of these amazing cards after hearing our analysis on TCG Player, please jump into our Discord. We have our affiliate link pinned in announcement in general. Please just jump over there, and we'll put it in the episode description below. And if you're buying cards on TCG Player anyways, just click on that link, and it allows support for the channel, and we use that to get new stuff, just like the things from the Patreon. So thank you all very much, and we hope you guys have an amazing week. Bye.
Bye.